Hey everyone, welcome back to Play Casket with a solo episode of Your Turn this week. And we said we're going to slow down on this, but there was a couple of actually pretty interesting things that I feel like requires some at least covering it, because I think by 2 weeks down the road, we're just going to be old newsed and just tossed aside like some waste of garbage, like literally one of the topics that I want to talk about right now, E3. Now, for me personally, and that's probably one of the reasons why I want to record it right now, is because E3 has been kind of like a huge thing for me growing up. It was, like, for me, and not to get too personal, for me, it was kind of like a gamer's Christmas, as it were, and I know a lot of people will probably even agree with that, but for me, I wasn't really too much a fan of holidays. Not gonna get into nitty gritties. It's not like one of those bah humbug Grinch things. It's just I just never really bothered with it much. But for like games and like anything else for a gamer, it was just E3 was the de facto go-to. It was a really cool, like, just announcements and just seeing how everyone would just make these booths and stuff, and the booth babes, of course, the early 90s, late 2000s booth babes, fantastic, just mwah. And then journalists happened, and then it got gross. And but outside that, there was some really cool ideas out there. There was always some people always like talking about and covering like these little games that would be in this small little booth in the dark corners and stuff. And it was always really awesome to me. One of my favorite ones was always hearing about what is called Line Attack Heroes at the time for Nintendo, and at the same time Project Hammer. There was some stuff that happened on those days and that never came to. It was never revisited by Nintendo, and it was like some of the stuff that always fascinates me is the what could have been type of scenario. And Nintendo's not hasn't been a stranger to that with E3 releases. The game Wonderful 101 also really weird project called Project P100 at the time, and like nobody really wanted to talk about it when the Wii U first came out, and everybody wanted to focus on Mario and what are the games they're going to be pushing out for this little touchpad thing, and like nobody's paying attention to this like interesting little like niche game out there. And from my understanding, it almost just got canceled outright because just no one wanted to talk about it. But I'm glad it didn't come. I'm glad it didn't get canceled, because Wonderful 101 became one of my favorite games on the Wii U, and like probably one of my more favorite gems on the Switch because of the way they made those games. And I kind of really like that weird take on the superhero thing, like that classic Japanese cheese just drizzled all over that Western superhero type of comic book superhero theme. I thought it was really cool. The other thing was another mystery that I remember in E3 was when Retro Studios was still kind of doing its own third party thing. That was always pretty cool. They had a lot of like multiple different games, and like they had maybe 6 or 7 different games in development, and like they had this one game called Raven Blade. Still just a tragic scene that happened to just have that game canceled by Nintendo. It's like the ultimate betrayal to me. It felt like it was going to be one of those games that's kind of like a early version of like the Elder Scrolls type of games, or their take on what was another good one? Dragon Age would be another one that would probably relate to the way that game kind of presented itself. So it does suck, but then there was some really wild ideas out there. I still remember the reaction when people showed off the new Link and the new graphics for The Legend of Zelda, not Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, and the memes that became afterwards. It was just, I still remember it live when everybody was just freaking out when it was a huge uproar of it being a realistic Zelda, because apparently everybody hated Wind Waker. Apparently you had in that time Like, if you weren't pushing graphical fidelity and you weren't pushing like these mature themes and gore and blood and realistic graphics, you were a kiddie system, and the games were kiddie and everything else. Tales of Symphonia, very kiddie RPG. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, absolutely kiddie. I remember more like Zelda, right? Type of responses. Nobody wanted that. Everybody wanted like God of War games for everything. And when they released a like Metroid Prime, I still remember people saying it wasn't mature enough because it just couldn't rival Halo, and it was just this whole thing. And then years later, GameCube, when the GameCube and that whole era has passed, people are like, man, I love GameCube, which is weird to me because I don't recall anybody ever liking GameCube except for me. I was a very lonely goblin. I was like, dude, what the hell, right? But overall, like, it was always a bucket list thing to me. I always wanted to go to E3, and I was like going to be very excited to just finally get that off my chest. Now that I would be old enough to actually afford it and stuff, and kind of knock it off my list. But I think probably 2014, 2015, when the E3 had to move to like two different convention center type of things, and they would do some stuff here, and then they would move people to kind of like tents and stuff. Like, I think that was one of the telltale signs that it was just not ready. Like, it was on its downturn right then. Not like on the years when the Wii U started doing, and with Nintendo started doing those Nintendo Directs, which I think honestly pioneered a lot of the damage that happened to E3, because developers and console makers and stuff are like, we can just announce our stuff at any time digitally to people without any oversight of investors and stuff, and we could just do that and then talk to our investors on a side gig to show response. Sign me up. Like, obviously, like, they were like, everyone's now doing it. Microsoft and Sony's doing their state of play, and Ubisoft's doing Ubisoft Forward, which whatever woke nonsense they're trying to pull out. Like, it's always something. Like, they got to have a 20-minute thing about saying how wonderful they are being diverse or something like that. It's always weird. It's like, dude, just show games. We don't need any of the rest of that. But even indies are starting to do a lot of their own themed directs and stuff. I've done a few responses to those as well. But yeah, it's a kind of like, but right when they started doing that, way before the directs, I'm like, I feel like this is a downturn. I feel like nobody really cares about E3 anymore. And slowly and surely, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were like disagreeing with me. Slowly, it was like, shit, you're right. Even I don't even really care, because it started having a lot of fake crap in it. Like, Ubisoft was known for its Watch Dogs demo being a completely isolated incident that never gets transferred into the game, let alone it looked like that in the game. Microsoft's guilty of it, and I think when Nintendo started doing those live Treehouse streams is when, like, everything just made more sense. You could actually see what the game looked like, but everyone else was always like this gray, brown, muddy, just graphical mess, and it just became, as much as people keep trying to trumpet like, oh man, it's so cool to have these games, not many of these people are like buying into them. Like, they're just pretending and stuff, and it's kind of sad, So E3 is kind of, shuttered its doors permanently, and I'll never be able to actually kind of experience that, which is kind of bittersweet in a way, because part of me just feels like, would I even want to see what E3 is like now? With everybody with blue hair and shaped like a pineapple, and all the games always being pretty much the same AAA cape shit garbage to first-person shooter sci-fi military dude. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would like that. It feels like E3 probably died for me a while back, and it just took this and I guess I'm not gonna do that then, huh? And like, I'm not saddened by it now, but I feel like I was probably saddened for a very long period of time of it just existing, and I was like, just kill it off. I already know it's dead. Like, just pull the plug, guys. It's not gonna happen. So, but maybe you guys have some experiences with E3, maybe some fond memories about like your favorite games that were advertised, like maybe the first Final Fantasy that you got to see, or maybe the first time you saw like a Nintendo game that made you pause and go, "Whoa, what the hell is that? That is crazy." Or maybe some obscure game that was out there that nobody talks about now because it was just this one-off game that just like came out and you tried so hard to kind of support it. I would like to hear about it. I would like to actually even kind of investigate some of those games if you guys have some. That would be really dope. But yeah, there's that. And then, outside that, during that same time, we had the what is it, the Game Awards that we covered and stuff, and highlighted that Sega announcing some new games and trying to bring back that Dreamcast energy, and everybody's kind of like amped up about it and stuff. And I have a positive outlook on it. I kind of hope that is the case. I can't be hyped about it, but I'm like I really hope so, because Sega's Dreamcast era was a lot of experimental stuff. Like Seaman, that was weird stuff, but for some reason I was all about it back then. And if they could bring that type of weirdness back, dude, I will sign up to it. I will sign up to almost everything Sega will throw at me if it's weird and abstract and it makes you go, what the hell? And it sucks because some of those IPs that Sega did have at one point in time, they just don't have anymore. For one, Sega just sold their Toe Jam and Earl like several years back. I think it's back in 2014. To make money back up, sold Toe Jam and Earl back to its original creators, which is great for Toe Jam and Earl and their new development team, Human Nature, which is great. I heard they're making a sequel to their Back in the Groove release a few years back. So here's hope to see more of that. But since then, there's been several trademarks and several licensing. I don't know all the situations I have. Like, it's just registrations of their names and their franchises and stuff. So we already know of Golden Axe. We already know about the Crazy Taxi. We know about Streets of Rage 5 coming out, and Shinobi, and I think there's another one, Jet Set Radio. And so we already know some of them, and they've already mentioned that they have others in mind. They've mentioned Virtual Fighter coming back, which will be pretty interesting. They're saying they're looking into possibilities of how to make it stand out. So we'll see how that works out. But several more licensing has came out since then to kind of indicate what else and what other ideas they're looking at making, which is very exciting to me. Because some of the ideas they've already shown, I was like, I'm already on board. I do find it weird that a lot of people are treating Streets of Rage 5 being like this whole return, even though 4 just recently came out to a point where it's still on current systems. Like, it's a little weird, guys, But Streets of Rage 4 was really good, though, so I'm not complaining. I just think it's weird that they're trying to frame it that way. But there's some more that came out with this whole list, and there's people gathered all the lists so far together, and they've kind of leaked about 3 different times, with a couple more each time, and with like a total of 13 IPs kind of mentioned and franchises kind of mentioned in it. And that includes like Altered Beast, which is a game I've never really played outside the Genesis collection. So I never really kind of messed with it. I'm excited about it. I'll see how it works out, and I'll probably just revisit it again and watch me suck at it, Another one, Kid Chameleon, Eternal Champions, Alex Kidd, Afterburner, House of the Dead, and it makes sense with House of the Dead kind of getting that I wouldn't say a remake, but it was kind of like a repurposing of the original arcade game onto consoles again, like HD consoles. So I can see them revisiting that. Outrun, which I'm kind of excited about, but there was several indie games that kind of hit that niche recently, and they're just taking off with that popularity. It seems like it was one of those situations, just like Capcom when they had Mighty Number 9 come out, and people were like, oh, we can't wait, and they're just hyping it up, and then Capcom goes, what if we just release Mega Man 11? And they just announce it, and then just not only did Mighty Might number 9 just suck, but then nobody wanted to fund the next game that he was wanting to do. And then on top of that, Mega Man 11 just took off. So I think that's one of the situations with the House of the Dead and the Outrun games. Is they see a lot of like indies trying to fill that void, and they're like, we can literally release a half-assed version of whatever game, and it would be just sell immensely to these people because that's what they want. They just want the brand. And one of the ones that I got a little excited about is Super Monkey Ball. They have made like kind of like a repurposing of the first 2 games, and then they did an HD version of the Wii game to the Switch and the PS4, probably the Xbox too. I don't really remember that, but they did do those, so I'm kind of excited about that. If they're doing Super Monkey Ball, I hope it's a new one, and I am on board with that, and I hope it doesn't have to push all those like graphical fidelities and stuff, because honestly, big square pattern, plaid pattern, like arenas, we don't really need much. We don't really need much graphics to that. Like, let it be able to be function and load fast. Like, be able to just hop in those things and just boom, get right into it. Like, I'd be definitely excited about that. But yeah, no, there was several things with Sega doing a bunch of stuff, and honestly, like, another question to you guys, like, do you guys think that Sega's really serious about bringing that Dreamcast energy back? Is there something that you're sitting there waiting for Sega to come back to and revisit that you're hoping to see, that you're just not believing Sega to return to until that happens? Like, you're like, nope, you're not, you're lying out your ass until you bring this back. And for me, like, is there some for you guys? Because there is one for me, honestly, and all I want is like a straight port of Skies of Arcadia. Like, Skies of Arcadia, especially the GameCube version, like, if you take the better like music from the Dreamcast one and put all the extra content that they added from the GameCube one, it would be absolutely primo. And I hope they don't fuck it up like the Tales of Symphonia HD remaster that Namco did, because that was kind of gross. But it would be one of those like, yep, Sega is back, boys. We are legitimately back now. Let's do it. And honestly, I'm kind of hoping that Sega really does very, very well, because their recent outings like Persona 5, Sonic Frontiers, the Sonic Mania, and Sonic Origins both doing very, very well. I have not seen how Sonic Superstars has done, but it's like it's hitting those niche, like those nostalgic markets, and they're kind of bringing back a lot of what people apparently really liked to Sonic, which was successful, which means eventually Sega's willing to kind of expand more into it. So maybe we might get a Vector Man or something, who knows? Just saying. But yeah, no, everything's, honestly, I'm looking very much forward to the Sega stuff. I would like to see where they come from with it, and honestly, as far as like the Atlas side of things, I'm willing to bet that they're gonna probably ride the Persona 5 coattails for a while before they go into a Persona 6. I do think them releasing Persona 3 and Persona 4 and the discount version of Persona 3 portable on like the Switch and stuff really benefited too, because now people are like, I want to see what this game's all about, because it's just like how everyone looks for Kingsfield now for any Dark Souls fan. Like, we want to see what the original's all about, type of thing. So I'm excited about that, and I hope there's more to it, but I think we're gonna just see a lot more Persona for a while. I kind of hope that they port the old Soul Hackers, because that was one of those games I was like, I missed out on that, and now it's like expensive as hell to find. So there is that, and it is a smaller recording today, because it is just me, and you're only hearing just my side of things. So I would like to hear anything that you guys like to say, and if you like our content, as always, feel free to like, subscribe, and don't forget to share it with your friends and such. And as always, we'll see you on the other side.